Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now, 865-243-TALK. That's 243-8255. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
And another week has gone by. And you are once again listening to the most informative, most reasoned, most logical radio show on the dial today. It is none other than the Patrick Riggins Show right here on the Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network. We are riding along on the 100,000-watt carrier wave being radiated from the radio station currently serving as the flagship of this show, 100.3 WNOX. It is located here on scenic Kingston Pike in Knoxville, Tennessee. If you would like to peruse the luxurious and well-appointed studios but are unable to stop by during the week, you can pull up your web browser and type in the address for the station website, that being www.wnoxfm.com. There you can watch and listen to the show being broadcast live. And we always do it live, no pre-recording here. But you can watch us live here in the WNOX studio, making more sense than anything else you will hear on the radio or television all week. That web address, again, if you're needing it, is wnoxfm.com. Speaking of sensible and rational people, let's say hello to Tori, our show producer.
Oh, no, you're not talking about me.
Yeah. Everything's kind of running an hour behind today.
Yes, I am. That's for sure. Everything's been in just a funky little groove today, I guess.
Well, I noticed our accurate and precise station clock is not set correctly.
The one on the wall.
Yes.
The one I go by is, though. I've been leaving mics on today during breaks and just a bit. I guess I needed that extra hour sleep.
Well, when I look up, I think, surely the station clock would be moved forward because we run the. Of course, the minutes are still the same, but that was interesting.
Just don't look at that clock up there; you'll be fine.
Just don't look at the hours. All right, let's make that announcement again this week about your gig coming up.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, the Beat Club, formerly the Invaders, it's called Beat Club now. We are playing at the Crown and Goose this Saturday night. We'll be going on stage around 9 o'clock that night, playing until probably about 2 or so, something like that. And then we're playing Sunday for St. Patrick's Day. We go on stage about 6:30. At 6:30 in the evening. I don't know why so early, but come on by. We'll be playing about 6:30 till about 9:30, I guess. So that's Thursday and Friday, the Beat Club.
Is that this Saturday?
Yeah, that's this coming weekend.
Boy, it is. We're halfway through March. I sit there thinking that's a week from now, isn't it?
Yeah, boy, it's the 10th today. Yeah,
that's
the old mortgage check in the mail. That's the 10th.
Jeez, boy, this month is going by quickly.
But to the time change, it's going to be an hour sunlight later today, so that's great. I love it when it stays daylight till about 9 o'clock at night.
Plus, it's warm.
Ah, the warmth.
Yes. Not freezing like it was last
Only
week.
thing I hate is it's about time to start mowing the yard.
Yeah, that's...
You going to come up mow my yard this year, Patrick?
Sure, I did last year, so I'll come up this year.
Patrick's out mowing my yard. Push mower.
Yeah, usually I, take my shirt off and thrill the neighborhood.
Get that oil on.
Get the oil on and push the old mower around. Yeah. Now that we've
ran off every viewer, every listener we've got.
Yeah, well, it's 2 hours after lunch. Surely everyone's got that digested. We're not bringing that up with that thought, that image in everyone's head.
I'll have it all weekend, thank you.
Yes. That's good, though.
No, I'll go home and tell my wife, and she'll have it.
Just make the whole Tori's whole household sick. Thank you for tuning in again this week. You're listening to the cornerstone of the Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network. That is the Patrick Riggins Radio Show. You have made it through another week of the fog of irrational arguments and unreasonable analysis Here you get the clean and refreshing analysis of the issues from a free American perspective. Not a Republican, not a Democratic one, but an American one fighting for our freedom and liberty. A lot of times when I'm out running around, I run into people who listen to this show, and they'll have suggestions on things I should do. One of them is, why don't I have a segment where we highlight government waste, highlight an area where government is wasting money? And that's a good suggestion. I get it over and over. The only thing that bothers me about doing that, though, is nothing ever gets done about it. Ever. Personally, when I see a write-up about, some program or something being bought by the government that's wasteful, I frequently chalk it up to the reporter having nothing to write about that day. Government waste, it's an easy story to do. No real research is required because there's so much of it. I think it is good to highlight government waste to try and get changes made, but they don't happen. I can remember when I was a kid reading about $100 hammers and $1,000 toilet seats, and that was years ago, and yet today it's still happening. So me, being a rational and logical person, I concluded those types of stories are not making any difference in what is going on in government. This leads me to decide the solution is to educate people in freedom and liberty. If we start working towards more of that, we'll have less government, and thus less government waste, along with our increased amount of freedom. All right, we're up on the first break already with the new daylight savings time. Tori is still trying to get caught up.
Okay.
All right, he's got the computer running. There we go. When we come back off break, we'll see if Tori can navigate us back.
Nope.
This is Patrick Riggins. We'll be back, hopefully, in a couple of minutes.
Fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. The Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now at 865-243-8255. That's 243-TALK. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
And we made it back with music to boot.
Because every good hero
Needs
his own theme music.
Exactly. And our hero would be Tori.
Oh, no, children.
Unfortunately, he's no longer on that show.
Oh, no, that was a bad loss. I like that as a case.
Yeah, they got him back, though. Did you see that show where they pieced off his stuff together, his, quote, last show on South Park?
Yeah, that was good.
So,
It's also good on I'm Going to Get You, Sucker.
Yeah, that was a good movie. I really enjoyed that movie. So, don't go find it now, but after the show's over, go find I'm Going to Get You, Sucker.
And then laugh.
Yes, very much. Lots of laughs in there. That's Keenan Ivory Wayans.
Yeah, it's a Wayans flick.
One of the Wayans flicks. So, all right, back with the Patrick Riggins Show. And this segment, I'd like to ask you, what is government? Is government some... Yeah.
Pain.
Oh, I just heard something from my left side, and I wasn't real sure if it should be on the microphone. Government, is it some benevolent or malevolent entity that lives in Washington, D.C., or lives in your local state capital, Nashville, for us, depending on where you are and where you're listening to the show, or your local city and county seat? No, the answer is government is us. We are government, the people. When a law gets written, is some amorphous entity writing it? No, of course not. It is someone or a group of someones sitting down and deciding that you cannot be trusted to live your life correctly in the way these particular people think you should. So they write a law to make it illegal for you to live your life in a way they don't think you should. These people doing this are your neighbors, your friends, your fellow humans on this planet who have decided they need to tell you what to do. Now, does that sound right to you? Someone telling you how to live your life according to the standards they think you should. When the standard should be you aren't infringing on someone else's natural human rights and they are not infringing on yours. What I want you to just think about to get you to understand, government doesn't exist without humans. Government is just words on a paper. That's it. Nothing more. What makes government work are other human beings. That's the only way government can get anything accomplished, is by working through other humans. So when someone is complaining about government, they're complaining about other humans trying to force them to live in a way these people think they should. Nothing more than that. If you don't live in a way they think you should, they'll penalize you by locking you up in a jail cell, or even worse, killing you. All this overspending, all this trampling on other people's rights, all these crimes, and yes, you can classify most of these excesses as criminal. Things that other humans are doing under the label of government. Things that would get you arrested should you try them. These people are doing it right now under the supposed reasoning that it's this entity called government committing these atrocities, when it isn't. As I just said, government is only words on a piece of paper, a concept in people's minds. It is actual human beings doing these things. Actual people voting to spend more of your money. Actual people advocating and committing the murdering of other people around this world without a trial, without a chance to answer for the crimes they're accused of committing. People are doing these things to other people. If you take anything away from this show today, or away from this show ever, or if this is the only segment of this show you ever hear, it is one of the most important. Government is not an entity. It is people. That's all. Other people doing these things against their fellow humans, fellow inhabitants of this earth. This is why this whole gun debate is just idiotic. I can't be allowed to have a gun, but other human beings can, just because they are functioning under the banner of, quote, government. They say, well, you can't have a gun. And I say, but you government people have guns. Well, sure, we're the government. But aren't you a human just like me, right? Well, yes. So if you're a human like me and you have a gun, then why can't I have one? Because you cannot be trusted to make the correct decisions in the handling of a gun. But wait, you're a human just like me, with the same human frailties, same human temptations. But you can be trusted and I cannot? Well, you see, the government, we're using our guns to protect you. Okay, so are you going to walk around with me as my personal bodyguard? Well, no, we don't have the manpower for that. But you walk around with a personal bodyguard, though, right? Well, sure, I'm more important than you. I thought we founded this country on the fact that all men are created equal. Well, most of us, except for us in government, we are better than you. We are more important than you. Thus, we should have bodyguards.
And bulletproof limos.
And bulletproof limos, exactly.
I want a bulletproof limo.
And automatic weapons, whatever they want. But those bodyguards are paid for by me. But I can't have them too? So I have to pay for your protection, but you aren't going to pay for mine. Well, we're the government and you have the police for that. Well, are they going to walk around with me to keep me from harm? Well, no, we don't have the manpower for that either. So why can't I just protect myself? Well, because we're the government and we don't trust you. Yes, even though we are all human, we don't trust you. But we trust ourselves. Now, to me, that just sounds stupid. I think I should be able to protect myself if I get attacked. Of course, the government would say, look, in society, sometimes individuals must be sacrificed for what the government determines is the greater good for the country. Sometimes you have to break some eggs to make an omelet. Well, that's all well and good unless you're the egg being broken. If someone who is mentally deranged wants a gun, they can buy one. Just like if I want to buy drugs, I can do it, no problem. Even though they're illegal, they are still available. I don't even have to work hard to get them. Same goes for guns. I can get a gun if I want one. So if I want to go on a killing spree, it's fairly easy to do so. But most of these people who do those things aren't dumb enough to try it when people with guns are around. Just look at what happens when the police show up. People with guns. These Nimrods commit suicide because they know what is coming. If we have more people walking around armed, then you aren't going to have these crazies trying this sort of thing as often. It'll still happen, but not as often as it does now. The main problem with all these people are the medications anyway. In fact, I have a story I ran across this week addressing this very issue. Hold on here. Here it is. It's a column by Rebecca Terrell entitled Psychiatric Meds, a Prescription for Murder. And she writes, in a frenzied cry for gun control, the media is rife with details about the firearms Adam Lanza used to kill 20 children and 6 adults before turning a handgun on himself at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newton, Connecticut. But information about Lanza's medical history is scarce, feeding speculation that he may fit the profile of school shooters under the influence of psychotherapeutic medication. In virtually every mass school shooting during the past 15 years, the shooter has been on or in withdrawal from psychiatric drugs, observed Lawrence Hunter of the Social Security Institute. Yet federal and state governments continue to ignore the connection between psychiatric drugs and murderous violence, preferring instead to exploit these tragedies in an oppressive and unconstitutional power grab to snatch guns away from the innocent, law-abiding people who are guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution the right to own and bear arms, to deter government tyranny, and to use firearms in self-defense against any miscreant who would do them harm. Unfortunately, there is a striking connection between these school shootings and psychotherapeutic drugs. A couple examples are Kip Kingle, an Oregon teen who murdered his parents and proceeded on a shooting rampage at his high school in 1998, killed 2 and wounded 25 while in Prozac withdrawal. Sean Cooper fired 2 shotgun rounds in 1999 at his Idaho high school while on an antidepressant. The article continues, despite the abundance of such evidence and glut of scientific studies proving real danger, there is yet to be a federal investigation on the link between psychiatric drugs and the acts of senseless violence. Also, between 2004 and 2011, there have been over 11,000 reports to the U.S. FDA's MedWatch system of psychiatric drug side effects related to violence, including 300 homicides. The FDA estimates this total is less than 10% of the actual number of incidents, since most go unreported. There is also plenty of official agitation for gun control. Lawrence Hunter, who we quoted before in the article here, he also says, it is pharmaceutical makers, not law-abiding gun owners or gun manufacturers, who should be held to account for the series of lone wolf mass shootings that have occurred since the widespread use of psychiatric drugs began. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention revealed in 2011 that 11% of Americans aged 12 years and over take antidepressant medication. CDC statistics also revealed a 400% increase in the rate of antidepressant use in the United States between 1988 and 2008. As of 2008, antidepressants were the most frequently used drug by persons aged 18 to 44. So, you see, the real problem isn't guns. We've had guns around since the founding of this country, and even before, but we haven't seen these large numbers of people on these advanced medications before. Medications we aren't entirely sure how they will affect each individual taking them. For the most part, they seem to be doing their jobs okay, but unfortunately, when they don't work correctly, the outcome can be catastrophic. All right, we're up on the bottom of the hour break here on The Patrick Riggins Show. When we come back, we will talk about the devolving of government, and also we'll talk about the infamous drones when we come back here on The Patrick Riggins Show. Join us in a couple of minutes.
Fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. The Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now at 865-243-8255. That's 243-TALK. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
Do you dream about me? Do you dream about the Patrick Riggins Show? I know you do, Tori.
Yeah, all the time. Can't stop thinking about it.
Now, I said, do you dream about it? I didn't say, do you daydream during it?
Oh. Okay, well, okay, never mind.
All right. This is the
Yes.
Patrick Riggins Show.
Well, yes, work.
Yes, whatever.
Okay.
Right here on the Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network. Playing a little 80s there, Night Ranger. Were you a big 80s hair guy there, Tori?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what I grew up in high school.
You didn't put the hairspray in, did you?
Oh, yeah. It was,
Did you
it was
really?
called Stiff Stuff. I didn't use Aquanet. I used Stiff Stuff because it was stickier.
Oh.
Yeah, my prom picture,
So-
I look like just hair.
You're looking like those people from Poison.
Never wore makeup.
Never wore makeup.
Never, ever wore makeup.
Just did the hair.
Just did the hair and the spandex.
Oh, gosh.
I'm a drummer. Drummers were always allowed to wear spandexes as long as it's while we were playing.
That is true. Musicians can get away with that.
Yeah, you can't just walk, well, I guess you could just walk down Gay
Sure.
Street wearing spandex and be like Dennis was in here like a lawyer or something, but George Corder walking down wearing zebra strap spandex.
Now, professional people are expected to dress a little better. Musicians can get away with that, though.
I know, and I love every minute of it. That's why I wear polka dotted shoes.
Yes, you do wear. He does have on polka dotted shoes. All right, this segment. I'm going to continue, get off that track, and continue a little bit from the last segment here. Just try to make you think about some things here. What I'd like you to think about is, are we devolving as a nation? As in, not evolving, but devolving. When you look around the world, you see countries that are in an almost perpetual state of war. Either they are fighting neighboring nations or having a civil war where each side is fighting for control of the country. Incidentally, that's what a civil war is. It's fighting for control of a country, not to be confused with what has been called a civil war in our country, which wasn't a civil war. The South really was not trying to take over the country. Another little misleading fact of American history. But anyway, back to my question, that is, are we devolving as a nation? The reason I ask that, like I said, you look around the world, you see these countries that are always fighting, they're always at war, and we wonder, how can a country be at war for that long? How can a people be fighting each other for hundreds or thousands of years? Isn't that wearing out their citizens, the people who live there? Aren't they tired of being at war their entire lives? Children growing up only knowing how to live in a country at war. It used to be those people could flock to America, the land of opportunity, the land of freedom and liberty, the land of peace. But not now. Now America has gotten in on the act. Now we are in this perpetual state of war as well. We just call it the war on terror, which is as a fake a war as there ever was one. To figure out why we have become this way, all we need to see is it benefits a whole lot of people to be actively engaged in as much war as we can be. It benefits the government. They are able to clamp down on your pesky and irritating freedoms. It benefits the arms manufacturers because they're turning out bombs and aircraft and all the implements of war and their associated spare parts, all this being sold to the government. We've become this nation of war, and we aren't content to keep it to ourselves. No! We have become the number one, the biggest arms dealer in the world, outselling all the other countries by a long shot. Other countries look at us now, and they see a country in a constant state of war, and exporting more of it around the world. The consequence of all this is the sucking up of resources that could be better used in other sectors of the economy. You see, we have this war sector, this area of the economy that feeds this machine, and it's growing well, along with government, the buyer of all this. And the other areas of the economy are left to fight for whatever scraps of resources they can find. That's why all this wealth is steadily accumulating in government into these areas of the economy, feeding the military suppliers, and it is being stripped from other parts of the country. Don't get me wrong, though. The military spending pales in comparison to the social spending we're doing in this country. The government has to pay off the citizens who are keeping it in power, voting the right way, and making sure the people running all of this stay comfortably in office. If we would just back off the world and just maintain a defensive military capability, we would be so much better off. The world would once again look to us as the powerful yet gentle giant, the huge and prosperous country that does not use its power unless attacked. But if attacked, we follow our own rules. We go to Congress, get a declaration of war against a specific country, and then we take care of business. Now, conservatives will argue, Patrick, we are fighting terrorists who have no specific nation state under which they live. How do we declare war against them? What we have to consider is, if we're minding our own business and letting other countries mind theirs, what do you think the chances are these terrorists are going to be coming over here to attack us? Now, we're told over and over by our country that these people hate us. They hate our culture, hate everything about us. Therefore, they're going to attack us whenever they can, wherever they can. This is a subject I've covered on the show previously, but I'll hit the high points here again. Here's a cold hard fact of life number 8. If terrorists wanted to attack us again, they would have done it already. But Patrick, you say it's because of the TSA and the Department of Homeland Security, they've prevented any more attacks. Oh, really? So no one can come across that border with Mexico. No one can bring a rocket launcher across that border and take out an airliner coming into an airport. Yeah, you're right. This country is impregnable. If someone wants to shoot up a school, they don't seem to have a problem making it happen. If someone wants to shoot up a shopping mall, it seems to happen there as well. So if they can do that, why aren't these supposedly fanatical people strapping bombs on and blowing themselves up all over this country in crowded places? You see, if you think about it logically and not emotionally, you start to see the disconnect between the story we're being given and what is actually happening. It is just like I tell you to do with your congressional and other government representatives. Look at their actions, not what you're being told. Look at what the actual actions people are taking. Those will always point out the real truth. These terrorists definitely have access to bombs and other arms. They have people who would be willing to travel to South America and make their way up into our country. Why aren't we having more attacks then? Is it because maybe, just maybe, we're being sold a bill of goods? We're being told things in order to further another agenda, that of relieving you of your natural human rights, all in the name of increasing your safety. We all know history repeats itself. Let's look at this so-called terrorism threat from the angle of history. Why did the Indians attack our forts, our outposts here in early America? Was it because they hated our religion? Was it because they didn't agree with how we lived our lives, our culture? No, it's because we repeatedly made agreements concerning what they saw as their land and then broke them. From the Indians' perspective, here they had a people who were claiming the Indians' land, the places where they hunt, the land they had fought other tribes over, and they continued to have to defend. They saw these white people setting up homesteads and farms on Indian land, but after a few skirmishes, they realized, hey, these white people are very powerful. They got guns. They have cannons. They have standing armies. So the Indians thought it better to reason and come to an agreement with these new people instead of fighting them and being completely wiped out. So they made agreements with the government to maintain some of their lands and give up other parts to the settlers coming west. Unfortunately, we continually broke those agreements over and over, which in turn made the Indians a little upset with us. Thus, they would attack when they saw as these interlopers setting up homes on Indian land they had secured agreements to with the federal government. So what did the government do when these attacks occurred? It sent an army to chase down and wipe out those Indians. Now back to present day. We look outside our country and into the world, and what do we see? We see American military bases all over the world. We see the American government operating in almost every corner of the globe. We see our CIA killing people without a trial. We see us sticking our noses into just about every country around the world, and we don't think that is going to make some people mad. We don't think when we violate agreements we have made, most importantly, our preaching of freedom and liberty to a world, yet we don't practice it. We don't think being hypocritical and preaching one thing, yet doing another, doesn't drive some people up the wall. It surely does when the shoe's on the other foot, when people do it to us. All right, we're up on the last break here. Trying to fit everything into this 1 hour is very, very hard. When we come back, it's going to be a short one, but we'll hit these drone strikes and we'll talk about Rand Paul here on the Patrick Riggins Show. We'll be back.
Fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. The Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now at 865-243-8255. That's 243-TALK. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
Yes, hold on tight to that dream of freedom and liberty, along with the restoration of the Constitution here on the Patrick Riggins Show and the Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network. We're going to jump right into this fourth segment because we ran a little over on that last one. This week, we saw Rand Paul conducting an old-fashioned talking filibuster on the Senate floor. And for those of you living under a rock or just vacationing under one, Mr. Paul was filibustering the confirmation vote of John Brennan, which we went over his confirmation hearing a couple of weeks ago here on this very show. What he wanted from the White House was clarification on whether the government can conduct a drone strike against an American citizen in this country, a question that was originally raised on this very show, as I said, right after Mr. Brennan's confirmation hearing. Senator Paul eventually got his answer, a carefully worded no, but if you read the statement, you'll see it really wasn't a no so much as it was a maybe. Now, here's a statement that's issued by Eric Holder. And it says, does the president have the authority to use a weaponized drone to kill an American not engaged in combat on American soil? The answer to that question is no. Of course, everyone just heard that. You notice the statement says the president doesn't have the authority to use a drone to kill an American, quote, not engaged in combat on American soil, unquote. So the obvious question is, who determines what engaged in combat means? Now, I'm glad people are finally waking up to what my listeners here on this show were warned about on this very show weeks and weeks ago. If you want to listen to that whole segment after the show's over today, go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Patrick Riggins Show. Scroll down the list, the show archives to February 10th, and look for clip 3. It's entitled Obama's Kill List, and you'll get my insight on those Brennan confirmation hearings, along with my warnings about this very thing, drone strikes on American citizens. If you want to go further back, you also find me discussing this type of action throughout all last year. A lone voice in the wilderness back then, but we're used to that on this show, being on the forefront of the fight for our American rights. Not only American rights, but the natural rights of all human beings. In America, outside America, it doesn't matter. But back to that question. What does it mean to be engaged in combat? How is the president going to define that? I mean, after all, we're engaged in a war on terror, the majority of participants of which are not accurately defined. But we are supposed to trust the government when they tell us the people they are killing needed killing. This from a government who has never felt constrained by the Constitution or the rule of law. When it needed to do something, it found a way to do it. Just look at Obamacare. Hey, it's a fine. It's not a fine, it's a tax. The Supreme Court says so. But getting back to Rand Paul, he was interviewed on Fox News about his filibuster, and here was one of his comments.
After 13 hours of filibuster, we're proud to announce that the president is not going to kill unarmed Americans on American soil. My next question would be, why did it take so long? Why is it so hard? And why would a president so jealously guard power that they were afraid to say this? But I am glad, and I think the answer does answer my question.
So we answered one question, but we have raised another. That is, we aren't going to kill unarmed Americans within this country. But what about an armed one? Do we still try to arrest this person and take them to trial, or do we just shoot them and assume the government is correct in killing them? We have that standard outside the country. The government is killing people all around the world with drone strikes without a trial, without evidence, without a chance to argue innocence. But we are supposed to trust our government is not lying to us about someone's involvement in activities against this country. Now, here's Senator John McCain's reaction to Senator Paul's filibuster.
To somehow allege or infer that the President of the United States is going to kill somebody like Jane Fonda or someone who disagrees with the policies is a stretch of imagination, which is frankly ridiculous. Ridiculous. Carolina. I would ask my colleague from South Carolina, is there any way that the President of the United States could just randomly attack with a drone or a Hellfire missile someone without that person being designated an enemy combatant? And I don't think, as much as I hate to say it, that applies to Jane Fonda.
So John McCain, demonstrating his total lack of grasp of the overall concept, essentially states that if you are designated an enemy combatant, then you can be hit by a drone strike within this country. He has no problem with that. The only problem is, as I've stated on this show many, many times before, the administration won't release the details of the criteria they use to designate someone an enemy combatant. So you could be designated one for reasons you aren't aware of, and before you know it, taken out by a drone strike, or heck, even a special forces strike within this country. No trial, nothing. The problem with this, as you see, is there's not transparency. Now, Senator Lindsey Graham also went to the floor, and this is what he said real quickly.
People are astonished that President Obama is doing many of the things that President Bush did. I'm not astonished. I congratulate him for having the good judgment to understand we're at war. And to my party, I'm a bit disappointed that you no longer apparently think we're at war. Not Senator Paul. He's a man to himself. He has a view that I don't think is a Republican view. I think it's a legitimately held libertarian view.
All right, we're coming up on this show. I want to play that one more time for you.
He has a view that I don't think is a Republican view. I think it's a legitimately held libertarian view.
So it's not a Republican view, these questions. It's a legitimately held libertarian view. Here is the definition of legitimate as we're wrapping up the show here. Being in compliance with the law, lawful. Being in accordance with established or accepted patterns and conditions based on logical reasoning. So Senator Graham acknowledges this view as the correct and logical one, but not a Republican one. What have I told you on this show over and over? Neither party, neither Republicans nor the Democrats care anything about the average American citizen. In fact, they look at us with contempt. Even when they acknowledge another view, a libertarian view is the legitimate one, but it isn't the establishment Republican view, so we aren't going to entertain the idea of it. The establishment view is the illegitimate one, the view that the government knows best and we should just trust it. We shouldn't question it, and we certainly shouldn't question the president or anyone else in government. All right, we're up on the end of the show here, Patrick Riggins Show. We have just packed that show full and still didn't get to everything. If you want more information about us, you can go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/Patrick Riggins Show, and be sure and hit that like button. You can also go to youtube.com/Patrick Riggins Show. That's where all of our archives are. And if you want to email us, it's patrickrigginshow@gmail.com, or you can send something to us, care of the station, WNOX, here on Kingston Pike in Knoxville. Thank you again for listening to the Patrick Riggins Show here on the Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network. Join me next Sunday afternoon where once again we'll talk about freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. Next Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. This is Patrick Riggins. Have a great week.
Join us again next week for a solid dose of truth on the Patrick Riggins Show every Sunday from 2 to 3 p.m. Be there.